Namaste. I'm going to tell you a story about the birth of Sri Krishna. Thousands of years ago, there was a very wicked king called Kamsa. He was extremely powerful and he was bent on the path of destruction. Nobody knew what to do. The gods were watching all this happening and they were helpless. Kamsa, in the meanwhile, also imprisoned his father, Ugrasen, who was a very good king. And then it was decided by Vishnu that he would be born as Krishna and he would destroy Kamsa. So Kamsa had a very beautiful sister. Her name was Devaki. And Krishna would come to Devaki as the 8th child. Kamsa loved his sister Devaki and he would have done anything for her. She was the only person whom he listened to. So a splendid wedding was performed for Devaki and her husband was Vasudev, who was also a chieftain. And this wedding was really splendid. Kamsa gave his chariot, which was driven by horses, wearing gold and silver bridles. Devaki made a beautiful bride, and Vasudev was also dressed in all his finery. Then Kamsa said, I will drive my sister and her husband to her new palace. As they were going, a voice from the heavens said, You evil man, Kamsa, you will be killed by Devaki's 8th child. When Kamsa heard this, he was shocked and he thought to himself, he said, I will kill my sister now and I will kill Vasudev also, so there will be no children. And then Devaki begged him. She said, my brother, give me some time to enjoy my married life. Why are you doing this? It is my 8th child you want to kill. So he said, okay. And then he decided that he would keep them in a prison. And he did just that. The first child was born. It was killed by Kamsa. The second child was also killed. The third child was killed. The fourth child. The fifth child. The 6th child, the 7th child. Devaki couldn't bear it. They were living in this prison. They could barely see any sunshine. And the loss of 7 children is not possible for any one of us to take, and for children who were dashed to the ground. So when the 8th child was going to be born, Devaki said to Vasudev, I cannot take this anymore. It is too much for me. The 8th child was born and it was the most beautiful child. The child was wearing ornaments. The child's eyes were like the sea. The baby was just a wonder to behold. Devaki saw the baby and closed her eyes, turned her face away. In the meanwhile, a voice said to Vasudeva, "Take the baby to Yashodha and Nanda, and you have to cross the river and go." Vasudeva just looked around. It was completely dark, and he thought to himself, how am I going to do this? Then the voice said, "You will bring back Yashoda's baby girl for your wife." Devaki was in the meanwhile unconscious. Suddenly, the prison was lit. The guards were asleep. There was bright light everywhere. Vasudeva picked up the baby and went out. It was raining. However, the baby stayed dry. He came to the river. The river was churning. It was as if it was boiling. Again, Vasudeva said, "How am I going to cross the water with my son?" When the many-hooded snake came and spread his hood over Vasudeva and the baby, they crossed the waters. Neither were wet, and they reached Nanda and Yashoda's palace. There too, everybody was asleep. Vasudeva put the baby there, exchanged the baby for the little girl, and went back again. It was possible for him to reach the prison. He put the baby next to Devaki. It was morning, and Devaki opened her eyes and looked at the baby. It was a little girl. She was so happy. The guards were awake, and they were looking fiercely all around them because they were so afraid of Kamsa. And Kamsa came into the prison and picked up the baby. He said, "Oh, you've had a daughter? Anyway, I'm going to kill her because she is going to kill me." Whereupon, when he picked up the baby and tried to dash the baby to the ground, the mother goddess emerged, and she looked at Kamsa and she said, "You will meet your death by her 8th child, but I am going." And she let out a fearful laugh and left. In the meanwhile, in the other kingdom, Yashoda and Nanda were looking at their son. They just looked at this beautiful baby. They had never seen such a lovely baby. Everybody came from far and near and played with this baby, and they called the baby Krishna. This is the story of the birth of Krishna. Namaste.